50-50. It was 50-50. I think we're getting votes tomorrow. Yeah, we're getting votes. Yeah, we're getting votes tomorrow. Maybe I'll get another shawarma platter. Who knows? We'll get like pizza, shawarma, and sushi. Four pieces is like nothing. Four pieces is but we get more money. We get more money.
The time is now 6:36 p.m. I call this meeting to order. Councilors, please head over to Echo 360 for your attendance. If anyone's having trouble logging into Echo 360, please raise your hand. Councilor Thompson. Council, before we proceed, I'd like to note a minor administrative correction. It was brought to our attention that the President's executive report was inadvertently omitted from the agenda that Council approved last week. To ensure we have full and accurate information, Council will need to amend the agenda to include that report. At this time, I'll put forward a motion that the agenda be amended to include the President's executive report under the executive report section as item 11A. Can I get a mover for this amendment? Councilor Wasti. Can I get a seconder? Councilor Guman. Are there any questions regarding this amendment? Are there any amendments or points of debate to this amendment? Are there any objections? We'll now proceed to a vote on amending the agenda. A simple majority is required. All those in favor, please raise your placard and keep them raised until I say. The motion passes unanimously. On Part 2's agenda, we have President Henriquez's executive report, Vice President Ejam, Saeed, Welpley, Massey, and Ahmed's reports. Following that, we have the November feedback and advocacy update presentation. This presentation is in camera. As I mentioned during Part 1, ACUSC members approved a motion to move the Presidency's advocacy update to an in-camera session by majority vote. During an in-camera motion, only ordinary members of council may be in attendance. A separate recording and set of minutes will be taken. How this will work is when we get to this point in the agenda, I will move us into an in-camera session and invite anyone who is not an ordinary member of council to exit the room. This means anyone who is not a council member or not a USC staff member must exit the room. For the in-camera session, a separate set of minutes will be taken and the general meeting recording will be disabled. Once the in-camera session is complete, I will motion that we rise from an in-camera session and council resume open session. Non-ordinary members of council can enter the room again. Following this, we have the motion to approve executive reports, and then our second readings of the motion to approve amendments to the council composition procedure, the motion to approve amendments to the external relationships policy, and the motion to approve amendments to the conference and retreat policy. Also, Theater Western is performing a musical in Mustang Lounge, so expect some disruptions. And a happy birthday week to Councilor Mercia, Councilor Whiteside, and Vice President Massey. and Speaker of Council Jasser. I invite President Henriquez to the podium to deliver her executive report.
Sounds good. Okay. Hi, everyone. Sorry we're doing a part 2 during almost exam season, but I hope we can feed you, before that. Okay. My asked me about is New York City. I was in New York for one of the UN high-level meetings a couple of weeks ago, kind of like a fun side quest. My sister came up with me. We saw 3 shows. It was fun, so ask me about that. In terms of highlights, it has been a hot second, I think, since we've done like a presentation, because obviously we had part 1 of the meeting while we were also away. But last time I wrote this, we were away. The entire executive was invited to the federal budget tabling. So we had a meeting earlier this year with Federal Parliamentary Secretary of Industry, Kareem Bardisi, who, whenever politicians come to campus, they kind of like to chat with us. They'll reach out to typically the VPEA or someone in the organization and ask to come chat. So we had a chat with him about kind of the work that we do at the USC, about council, about issues that students are facing, tight job market, affordability, all of the things that we're all actively dealing with. And we let him know that we were going to be in Ottawa to do some federal lobbying. As you know, this year is the first year in quite some time we haven't had like a representative federal advocacy body. So we're just going at it on our own to see if we can, and it's been going really well. I'm sure you'll get updates about that from Omar later on. But yeah, while we were there, the whole executive was able to make it to the federal budget tabling, so that's when the federal government puts out what they'll be spending money on for the next year, and everybody decides if they like it, and if they decide no, we go back into an election. They decided yes, and so we're not in an election. And then the USC did a press release this year about like the things that we're excited to see about in the budget, like investments into youth employment and stuff like that, and things we're hoping to see as well. Number 2, the big nickel and associated metals. We did go to, I think I did this report after USCGA, but before we left for Toronto, maybe? I'm not really sure. But we did do USCGA. We brought a few of the counselors with us. I'm seeing some nods that you had a good time. Okay, great. And one of Sudbury's big claims to fame is the big nickel. They do a whole thing around it with pumpkins during Halloween, and so there was carvings of various things in the pumpkins. It was great. And then my third highlight was speaking in the AVP UA's class. So Associate Vice President University Affairs, that's Jenna's AVP, invited Omar and I to speak in her class about the politics of psychology, and we were there alongside I don't know where he is. Maybe he's not here today. Braden Levy? Not here today. But he was there too, and it was really fun, and I hadn't been to Kings in a while, so that was a good time. Okay, updates. Lots and lots of traveling. I know we weren't even here for part 1. We were in Toronto for USA, which is our provincial lobby bodies, student advocacy conference, as well as an alumni event. This is the USC 60th year, and we do rely a lot on the alumni for their advice on how to do these jobs, but also the work they do in industry and government and in other areas. So it's always nice to celebrate them, especially during an anniversary year. So we were down there for that. You'll get more updates, I imagine, in Omar's presentation about all the nitty-gritty stuff, but we were in London, we were in Sudbury, we were in Ottawa, we were in Toronto, and then we went other places, and we went back to Toronto. Life's good. We did the USA General Assembly. Shout out to our council representatives. Thank you for coming. You were lovely to have. And then as well, every November, we do the Executive Portfolio Budget Retreat. So as you guys know, the USC is a not-for-profit corporation. We have kind of an executive or political budget, and that's the budget that goes into all of their portfolios, goes into my portfolio, investments in advocacy, programming, services, and the executives every year, make a decision on where the organization should make investments for the next year. And kind of the way that it works is the current team, so us, decides sort of the allocations. Are there any big strategic investments we're making? Are we adding an extra coordinator position somewhere? Are we joining an organization? Are we are we doing more concerts? Whatever it is, we allocate money to the budget, and then when the new team comes in, they're elected in February. Full team is kind of shored up in April-ish, and then transition happens April through mid-May. they come and they essentially like allocate the lines within their budget. So we just say like, this portfolio has X amount of dollars, and then it's up to that incoming VP, once they're fully in the role, to like decide exactly where the money's being allocated in terms of meeting, in terms of travel, in terms of staff appreciation, in terms of actually paying people for the things that they do. And then that comes to summer council. So you guys would have seen, the very first meeting that we all did was you guys approving the within portfolio allocations that we made, but the like general portfolio allocations that Emily's team would have made last year. And later this council year, but early next calendar year, you will get a presentation from me, and I think Oliver, like, because Gov and Finance, like, I think you'll be up here too, and we'll kind of chat through what the executive budget looks like. At the same time, I put on the CEO hat, and I kind of start working with SMT and our adult full-time staff on what the corporate budgets will look like. Scenario planning for, you know, if legislation comes through, like, what does that look like? If all the spoke machines break, like, what does that look like? And so it's a big budget and numbers kind of game. Board sort of tackles the oversight for the corporate budget, making sure, you know, we're in compliance, land, labor law, those kind of things. And then council tackles the political budget, making sure where we're allocating money actually makes sense to what your constituents are needing. So we'll need you to do lots of consultations, which you're good at because you're here. So thanks in advance for that work. Lots and lots of work with partners and politicians. So the exec did a sit down with London city manager. So fun fact, cities are actually like corporations. And so you've got like technically like the chief administrative officer or the city manager. Her name's Sandra. She's lovely. She came to orientation week. She's kind of newer in the role. And so we sat down with her to talk about, you know, how London can be more receptive to students, how we can get more students integrated into London. It was in the platform. London is our city too. Very catchy title, and it's true. You are as much residents of London as anybody else. You have every right to go, you know, delegate at a city council meeting, to vote in the upcoming municipal elections if you're around next year. And so we met with her, and we were like, here are all the things that you could do to make life better for students. And she said, great. It was actually a wonderfully productive meeting. We had sandwiches and pickles. It was phenomenal. Alumni Association board meeting, that's another thing that I do kind of in my like CEO capacity, is I engage with Western's Alumni Association. What's really fun is the Alumni Association often has a ton of USC alumni. The current president is a past USC president, and the incoming president of that association is a past USC VP. So I get to go, ask for advice, and then also tell them about all the incredible things my VPs are accomplishing, that you guys are doing at council, and just kind of like what the vibe of campus is. So I give an update probably once a quarter to them on like what's going on in each portfolio. So I'll be like, this is happening in student services, this is happening in programming, this is what's happening here. And then everything else that kind of like falls in the purview of my job description, very like duties as assigned, coded, I would say. Omar and I sat down with the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. So London is a city with businesses. They have a Chamber of Commerce. We hang out with them a lot. A lot of the needs are often similar. Like there's a lot of things that we can be similar on. Everybody's like generally pro-transit. Everybody's generally pro people being employed. We go to a lot of like their round tables. They engage with a lot of our locals. So like a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, all the days are kind of the same. We did a sit down with the Chamber of Commerce and our local MPP. And so we go and hang out with Graham from time to time just to get a pulse on what's in the city. The USC is a major stakeholder in London. We're one of the largest not-for-profits that operates in the city, and obviously our constituents are a really big part of London. And so we hang out with him a ton, work on things together, and had some really interesting conversations around how the USC can be like a more active member of the chamber and a more active member of kind of like the municipal but not necessarily city council realm of London. Downtown London consultation and engagement. So earlier this year, the USC was invited to partake in London's downtown engagement. So that's like literally them trying to make their downtown like more appealing to people. Like, how do we get students to spend money here? Like, how do we get students to come downtown? How do we get people to like feel like downtown is like a safe place? Really, really productive consultation. So much so that like the consultants were like, this is a group of people we really need to talk to. So they came to campus, and we had to sit down and a chat with them. The full executive was kind of able to talk with Catherine, who's like one of the lead consultants on the file, about, you know, how we make London more approachable for students, which is like, A, don't kick people out of cafes. B, have buses that run downtown late. Like, C, don't assume everybody drinks. B, don't be, I don't know what letter I'm on, but like, don't be mad if people want to go to the bars. Like, it's a downtown, there's going to be nightlife, and like kind of like demystifying, unpacking, and doing some education around like the perception of students versus like the really strong like economic impact we have on a city. Like we are a significant portion of their like guaranteed fare revenue for their transit system. Like we go to cafes, we go to bars, we go to open mic nights, we go to bookstores, we go to watch games downtown. I don't know. We do a lot of things there. And it's important for the city to recognize that and welcome that, especially since like students are here and are citizens and are using utilities and doing all those fun things. So that was, I think, a really cool way for the USC to more explicitly engage in the planning of the city. And it seems to be a theme over the last month. Everybody wants to come talk to us about downtown. We are happy to oblige. Okay, we hosted 2 federal MPs. So MP Kayabaga, Deputy House Leader, is also a representative in London, as well as MP Al Sood from Mississauga Centre. They came down to campus for an event, and we were kind of invited. They wanted like a tour. We showed them around. They had dinner at the Wave. The USC's like approach is that we interact with any and all elected officials who are willing to interface with us. It's really important that, you know, people from all political parties, all levels of government, and all designation of elected representative understand the issues that students are facing and understand that students are important constituents in the larger planning of how government operates. So we hung out with them for a little bit, showed them around campus and the restaurant, and then sent them on their way to their event. And wow, I really like did this in a fun order. Also, the first installment of Faculty Council payments are out. So as you know, like Western collects money for you. I dole it out to you. Your faculty presidents and VP finances did a great job of getting in your budgets. And so those installments are out, which is super exciting. And then in terms of upcoming, midnight breakfast. Does everybody know what this is? Yes? Okay, exciting. Midnight breakfast is coming up last week of school, which is like I'm really trying with the noise, but they're doing a great job. The 15th to the 19th. And so in that week, we're doing some midnight breakfast. Some execs will be down there. Some staff will be down there serving up pancakes, eggs, the works to keep you guys going during exams. I know it's a really busy time. Midnight breakfast is something that kept me going, so I'm happy we can do it as well. And it's actually something that Western administration and city officials have expressed interest in attending, which is kind of fun. So they'll be there. And then I saw 3 minutes. I'll be fast with this next slide, I promise. Okay, switching gears a little bit. For those of you who were not on council last year, there was a survey around students' opinions on the way that the university should invest, like its endowment and its pensions and things like that. And that was put out with the general election last year. So like that was like when I was elected. And it was something that was on the ballots and students engaged on. Administration was engaged on it as well. They popped in a QR code that kind of led to their responsible investment section of their website. So there is a vote on the Senate floor happening on Friday around this topic. And so I needed to make sure that these results came to council. And as well, I'm supposed to bring them to council like before a year, and it's before a year, so here you go. This is the results of the survey. So we had just over 2,100 responses, specifically to the question, should the University Students' Council advocate to Western University incorporating human rights considerations into its investment policies, specifically divesting from companies that are engaged in or complicit with human rights abuses as defined by UN standards, including but not limited to weapons manufacturing. I wasn't an executive at the time or a council member at the time where this survey was like kind of created, but we thought it was important to bring the results to council. And making sure that we understand student concerns, and it's something that we've engaged administration on. I just had a meeting with Lynn Logan and Eric Mallory. So Lynn Logan is the VP Operations and Finance for the university. Eric Mallory is, don't quote me on his title, I want to say the director or a manager of investments. Gazette, I will get you his official title, I promise. Really productive meeting with them, as well as Steph Payne's BD, the VP students, or the acting VP students at the university, about the survey, about kind of what students are looking for, about concerns we're hearing, about motions coming out of faculty councils. It really is kind of my position as the USC president, and us more broadly as the executive, to be that bridge to administration of like what students are talking about on the ground, what are your concerns, what are the things that you want your university to be doing, and bring that to them. and as well help them kind of communicate messaging out. So that's something that we've been talking a lot with them as they bring forward their first responsible investment policy in January. So there's a lot of conversation kind of having about this at an institutional level. Any way it goes, I will keep you updated. And I think Armand's looking at me like I'm out of time. Goodbye.
Are there any questions?
Oh, I can't
Councillor Churchill.
All right, thank you for your executive report. I just wanted one question that a lot of my constituents have brought forward. You kind of did touch on it a little bit in the first slide.
Okay.
So I just wondered if you could expand a little bit more on this area. So like the USC does a really good job at meeting with different levels of government and different members at government. I'm just wondering if the USC, given that there's like 3 ridings in London that are held by members of the official opposition, and there's a bunch of students here who feel like their concerns are better heard through those members. I'm just wondering if the USC has any plans to meet with those individuals coming up soon.
So the USC's official stance is that we're a nonpartisan organization, but we're definitely not non-political. And so we meet with representatives kind of from every elected party. And so we've met with, for example, like Rob Flack, who's the, give me 35 seconds, the Ontario Cabinet Minister for Municipal Affairs and Housing. And he is a current member of Government Caucus. As well, we've kind of reached out to kind of all the constituency pools that touch London. Obviously, we sit pretty squarely on the provincial level in MPP Kernahan's riding, as well as federally MP Fragiskatos' riding. But we do make an effort to meet with individuals from, they're doing a great job. I'm very proud of them. It just makes it very, very hard to give you a straightforward answer. But yeah, the long and short of it is yes. We do we primarily try and meet with people in government. So we've actually been doing a ton of meetings, not necessarily with local representatives from Government Caucus, but specifically we met with the Minister of Energy and Mines, Stephen Lecce, very recently. We met with the Government Minister for Colleges, Universities, Research, Excellence, and Security a few times this year. And then as well, like I mentioned, we saw Rob Flack, who's kind of in the Elgin, Middlesex County, which is close to here. We're working on a meeting with Teresa Armstrong, and I know there's a third in the area that I am struggling to remember. I'm really sorry, Connor. And I'm kind of rambling, but the answer is yes. And if they have any questions, their emails are always open, happy to answer, and also happy to connect students if there's specific people that they want to speak to.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, not a problem.
Are there any questions? Thank you, President Henriquez.
Great, thank you.
I invite Vice President E. Jam to the podium to deliver her executive report.
Hello, everyone. So my Ask Me About is Ontario traveling. I didn't do that much, but probably definitely the most I've done ever. So as Kat mentioned, we went to Ottawa. I was also in Sudbury for USA, and I took care of the around 12 delegates. So that was really great in Sudbury. And then I was also in Toronto to see my sister, also Mississauga to see some family in Richmond Hill. So there's a lot of Ontario traveling since the last time. So I thought that would be my Ask Me About. Top 3 highlights. One is watching Parliament. It was very, very cool to kind of see that. As Kat mentioned, we got to see the budget tabling in Ottawa. Very cool experience. So definitely a highlight. International Week food competition judge. Me and Saad got to work with Western International this year, so that was a really great experience and very full circle and wholesome for me, because if you knew my undergraduate background, I volunteered with Western International for 3 years and have volunteered at 2 international weeks, so getting to be part of this one as a judge was just very full circle, and the food was delicious, so it was really great. And then the last one is the Big Nickel and Pumpkin Inferno in Sudbury. As Kat also mentioned, honestly, the Pumpkin Inferno was so impressive. It just genuinely, there was I feel in the thousands of carved pumpkins, and I've never carved a pumpkin before, which is kind of sad, but it was just very cool to see how creative that was. So some updates, the Academic Rights Fair, I've been talking about this one since probably the first council report that this one was coming up. This was kind of one I was very passionate about doing. It's a new initiative to kind of inform students around academic accommodations, their academic rights, academic accommodations, considerations, just kind of everything around that, and just how students can, get ahead of scholastic offenses, but also the ombudsperson was also there. So it's a really great collaboration also with the Western Student Senators, which was a new thing it was really great to hear some really great feedback from lots of students, and also students telling me that they got to learn more about the Senate roles in general, which I think was a new thing that we haven't had before. But it was also a collaboration with the Vice Provost Academic Programs, which was really exciting as well. So that was really a big one. And then also there was a Campus Safety Grant Committee. This committee comes together every single year. So this is something I get to sit on as Vice President University Affairs. And it basically, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, every single year they give a certain amount of money to colleges and universities it's a grant to basically fund initiatives, and it's multiple different initiatives that basically contribute to campus safety, women's safety, just on campus, and this has been happening for multiple years. And so during the year, different departments across campus kind of submit different proposals, and there's usually more proposals than it can be funded, but they don't tell you how much it is until later on. So this committee comes together once that amount is told to us. So I think it was around $150,000 that the provincial government was able to give this year, but the total amount of proposals was worth $220,000. This is estimated. So that's kind of what the committee does, is we go through and we kind of look at which proposals we are going to give this grant to. And part of that was $10,000 for the O-Week shuttles to give safety to students during O-Week, especially with the late night programming. It's a really important thing. And so that was a grant proposal submitted by Sarah from last year, the VP Orientation and Programming from last year. So that is one update. And then also Teaching and Learning Strategic Action Plan Committee. So this was a new committee that was struck up by the Vice Provost Academic Programs, which I'm really glad I get to sit on. So basically, she kind of struck up this committee with different representatives to create a strategic action plan to have it done, I guess, by the end of the year. So we're kind of coming together, figuring out kind of what the timeline looks like for that. I think there's going to be, I think a survey might be out, and if it's not, it will be very soon, but to kind of inform what that will look like. So that was kind of something new that I think happened 2 weeks ago. And then lastly, for the updates, Fall Preview Day, that was something me and Saad got to work on. So we came in one Sunday, and it was really nice to just talk to all the prospective students who were considering Western and just kind of seeing like why, and like, I guess convincing them a little bit, but to just tell them how great the student experience truly is at Western and all the opportunities, experiential learning, the academics. So yeah, that was really great. Upcoming, Analyzing Academic Rights Fair Survey. So we're kind of doing like an environmental scan of like how students feel around academic rights. And we got over 100 responses just over the 3 hours of the fair. So that was really exciting. So our comms team and our feedback intern is kind of going through that to kind of compile a report for us. And that is going to inform the teaching and learning position paper. So I'm working with my coordinators and my AVP to kind of create a timeline of using that data to kind of inform questions for a larger survey as well as focus groups. And yeah, that's kind of looking forward to next semester, what that will be about. So thank you so much. Are there any questions? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Ejam. I invite Vice President Saeed to the podium to present his executive report.
All right. I don't want to be too repetitive, so I tried to include things on my slide that Kat didn't. I guess ask me about next week. I'm going on vacation. I know they call me VP vacation, but this one's an actual real vacation that I'm not going to be working for. I'm going to the Dominican, so feel free to ask me about that. But then top 3 highlights from the past month-ish. Federal Advocacy Week, as Kat said. If you want to see like more specifically who we met with, like what departments we met with, I have like a full list in the written stuff, but I don't want to bore you all by reading through all the different ministry names, but there was a lot of them. We at the USA at USA General Assembly, which some of you were at, we passed 3 papers, 2 of which the USC actually worked on directly. So there was the Accountability and Systems Vision paper that myself and my coordinator Coy worked on, and then also we had a student author under Saad's portfolio actually, Claudia, work on the Indigenous Students paper, and both of those passed at GA. So it was really great to see the USC contributing to 2 papers there. And then just recently, actually last week, we had USA Student Advocacy Conference, also known as their Lobby Week. The specific meetings I had during that week won't be in the report because I wrote it before the week happened, but they're up on the Instagram, and I'll be sure to include it for next month's report, but also feel free to ask me if you'd like to know. In terms of other updates, so some stuff that wasn't in CATS was I attended the Western and Sarnia intersection public participation meeting, as well as the municipal draft 2026 budget public participation meeting. So I took a few members of my team to both of those events, and then also Kat joined us for the budget one. So the municipal budget has passed. And then also the London Transit Commission currently has their draft service plan up for review. So we've been directing students to give their feedback towards the LTC. And we're prepping a campaign right now that's kind of soft launch sometime this week or next. And then we'll do a hard launch in January when we come back from the break. And that's directly related to Route 10. It was an old bus route that we had that would go through campus. We've heard a lot of feedback from students that they'd like to see it return through campus. So we're working on a letter writing campaign and working with some commissioners on the Transit Commission to hopefully bring that back. And we have a proposal set to go through on the January 26th LTC meeting where that will be decided finally. And then I just wrote down Bill 33 status because when I wrote this, we didn't know what the status of it was. But I can officially tell you that it has passed. So it passed about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and is like an official bill now. What that means for us in reality, or like what has changed since then, not much. It still just gives the government the power to create regulations. Kind of the next step now is seeing what those regulations are actually going to look like. So still in conversation with the government, we met with Minister Quinn specifically about Bill 33 earlier this month and kind of gave him a rundown of our student fees and how they work. And we actually were mentioned in a budget committee hearing as being an example of a student union that does it well. So we're hoping that maybe we can be like a template of where the regulations could go, but definitely trying to influence those to make sure that student services aren't impacted negatively. And then also just ran the fall housing fair. So that was primarily kind of coordinated by off-campus housing, but we worked on it in collaboration with them. And then next semester we'll do our tenants' rights fair, which is kind of the other way around, where it'll be mostly coordinated by us, focusing more on rights and community resources. Theirs was kind of more focused on finding housing. So it's kind of a nice little thing that we're joining them with. And then we're still working on the accessibility paper. My coordinator and AVP ran focus groups for the accessibility paper and are currently talking to Accessibility Western. The focus groups went super well. They actually like maxed out the signups. They had over 30 people sign up for the focus group, which is really great to see, and ran those sessions while I was traveling and got some amazing feedback. So now they're working on incorporating that into the new papers that you guys will see later this year, or I guess next year technically. But yeah, this year of council. And then some things that are upcoming. So still planning Women in House. Currently, we're just waiting to see if the government will rise during reading week or if they're going to come back a little bit later. They have a habit of coming back later, so we're just kind of waiting for them to confirm that. We'll find out for sure December 8th, and then we'll have an actual date for it after then. And then we're planning a new event called Seat at the Table. It's going to be kind of an internal governance and policy conference for people that are interested in working in government, either as elected leaders or as staff or even in government relations. So really like having students open up their eyes into what possible careers there are in government. So that one is currently like soft scheduled for January 31st. Again, like we'll find out more once we figure out the government schedule for next year, but that's currently where that's sitting at. So once we have those firmed up, we'll definitely send you some information, and we'd love it if you guys could come or if you could share that as well. And then, as I mentioned before, continued advocacy for London Transit Commission with the draft service plan and the Bill 33 regulatory lobbying. So now we're kind of in that phase where we're trying to shape the regulations as the bill has passed. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Thank you, Vice President Saeed. I invite Vice President Welpley to the podium to present her executive report.
Hello, hope you guys are all well. My Ask Me About is baking. It was one of my passions, and if you ask my undergrad roommates, they would tell you I was baking once a week, and I haven't been baking, and then I made cinnamon roll cookies the other week, and I was like, wow, I miss it. So that's my Ask Me About. Top 3 highlights. Ottawa for the first time. Strangely enough, I had never really been to Ottawa to like stay and see. I've done quite a bit of travel across Europe. Haven't done here. Anyways, puppy social with Triple SC and the social size offs. I'm a sucker for a dog, and what's better than a dog is a puppy. So that was super fun to catch up with some softs. And then the beaches. So the exec and I were fortunate enough to go to the beaches downtown London here. It was super cool. It's not necessarily a band I listened to a ton, but their music was so good, and the Valley opened up for them, which was also fabulous. So yeah, it was just a really cool vibe. Concerts have been something that like I haven't really attended, and then now at this job, seeing all the concerts and seeing everybody come together for live music has really been really, really cool and kind of like a big passion point for me. So yeah, that's awesome. Some of my updates around Movember campaign in the Spoke. So over the past month, I already briefly talked about it. We were asking students when they bought something at the Spoke if they wanted to donate to Movember. So we're just in the process of collecting around these funds. It's looking around over $3,000, close to $4,000 that we're going to be able to donate to the Movember campaign. We ran a roommate mixer alongside Omar and his team with Off-Campus Housing Office as well. We actually just debriefed that today and kind of looking at how we can make improvements to perhaps meet students where they're at and kind of meeting roommates. A lot of students we were seeing were upper years that were actually looking to kind of like find a house or find a room in a house or find someone for the room in their house. So we're trying to re-envision this and how we can make it best accessible to students to kind of come and kind of meet their needs. Yeah, so we also hosted our first LST social, our first like kind of feedback session with our LST of how they're functioning. So we talked about what would be a good transition for the incoming LST, and essentially we created a document that we're going to pass along. So using kind of the voice of the current LST, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. They are the best ones to know kind of those positions. So I'm here to support them in making sure that we create a transition process that's supported by the USC that sets everybody up for success. And then we also chatted through like engagement and what's that looking like, how we can better support them, and we'll continue to have conversations throughout this semester as well as next semester to see kind of where we can make improvements if necessary. Jen and I also met to chat through accessibility guides for programming, so seeing where we can make sure that our events are meeting student needs, and also talking about behind the scenes of where we can support better. We also met kind of as a team under the VP or under my portfolio with the coordinators. They've been doing such amazing work and been such hard workers, so to celebrate them and kind of to celebrate their success going into the new year. We also had our first LST meeting for our 2026-2027 teams, which is super exciting. We set some expectations for the year, what it's going to look like, and then they also were tasked kind of with the first idea of starting to think about their theme for the year. So it's kind of the first thing that you as an LST team really work on. It sets the tone for the year. They use it for uniforms, they use it for programming sometimes, so kind of getting those thought reels rolling. It was so surreal to see everybody there. I was an LST, and then seeing like all the LST in the room that you guys are here now, but kind of that's the first time that you really feel that you're an LST and that kind of everything is real. So it was really, really cool. Soft applications are opened. Now they are closed. So we are working through getting all of those situated to give to the LST, where they will begin to mark and grade and start the hiring process. Battle of the Bands round 1 is completed. Sod and I hosted that, which turned into Sod hosting it. Thank you, Sod. It was really, really fun. Facelift ended up winning, but honestly, such great talent. We sat on the bus to Ottawa, like marking the applications, being like, who's going to be the teams to go? And they were all so impressive. It was such a fun event. So if you guys weren't able to make it out to that one, I encourage you to make it out to our second semester one and kind of support our fellow students. Upcoming, we are meeting with our current LSTs to talk through transition, but then also how I can help support them in second semester and making sure that we keep engagement up and they feel supported. We also are continuously working with our folks in student experience. We did a Distress Fest, yesterday, where we brought coffee and cookies to students in Weldon, making kind of that fun caffeine and cookies and snacks for exam season, but looking at where else those collaborations will lead. And then also collecting student feedback on what programming we want for second semester. I came into this role really kind of wanting to make sure that student voices were at the forefront of programming and what they wanted to see. So Sod and I working together to develop plans in place to really kind of have that centered. And then, yeah, also just looking into exam season, how we can best support students. That is it.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Vice President Welpley. I invite Vice President Massey to the podium to present his executive report.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? I'm just going to turn up the brightness on my laptop so I can see. Okay, so top 3 highlights for me. Actually, I should start with asking about Zohran Mamdani. He had just won when I wrote this, and love him or hate him, he's a very effective communicator. Top 3 highlights are 1 being interviewed by CTV in the Mustang Lounge for our charity sorting party, which I'll update in the update section. Number 2 highlight was Battle of the Bands, which was a ton of fun. So thank you, Reagan, for throwing it. And then number 3 is Huron Ball, which was very lovely. So thank you to Huron for throwing that. Now for my updates. First is our charity sorting party. So on Monday, November 10th, we had a charity sorting party in partnership with Lionhearts, which is a charity that operates across Ontario. For this event, we brought in over 8 pallets stacked high with miscellaneous Amazon boxes in a semi-truck, unloaded them into Mustang Lounge, and student volunteers opened the boxes and sorted the contents together, repackaging like items and labeling what's inside for their distribution to other charities across London, who we also had about 4 of them present in Mustang Lounge to give them their stuff directly. And that's where CTV also came out to interview me for that, which was a ton of fun. Next is the USC's grocery shuttle, which is back, returned the first week after reading week. And it will run every Tuesday from 8:30 to 5:30 until December 16th. We're operating on a new route from Alumni Hall to United Grocery Store because of its proximity to Freshco, Metro, and Indo-Asian Grocery and Spice, allowing students to shop at preferred locations. So we're still receiving feedback on how that's going, but good to have it back. Next are changes to the usage and governance of the Student Refugee Fund. So we're currently undergoing a comprehensive review of the Student Refugee Fund, its policies, and how it's used. Currently, the majority of the funds go to the World University Service of Canada, also known as WUSC, which connects universities with individuals around the world who are displaced and seeking an education. We want to improve the supports for students brought through this program to help make that transition to Western easier, and that includes reviewing the responsibilities that lie with the USC, the WUSC Club, and with Western. So there'll be more updates about this in the future for council, but that's just something myself and Jenna have been working on to make sure that students that we invite to campus are being supported the best way we can. Next, we have discounts on busing. So I've been in contact with Intercity Busing, which operates in London and Ontario. Kind of an idea we were building off of Omar's Via Rail initiative. Via Rail is amazing, connects you to a lot of spaces, but it doesn't connect to Pearson Airport, which is a top destination for a lot of students. So it'll actually be launching this Friday, where Intercity Busing will be giving students 15% off on that route. So just a fun thing, if it helps some students save money, it's always a plus. And then next is the first Coat Cycle location. So after a very long journey with university admin, a lot of policies, procedures, and bylaws, the first locations for Coat Cycle, which is a lab coat recycling program, have been set up in UCC, North Campus Building, and some other areas as facility management installs them. So the full launch of the program will come soon, kind of for a big push next semester when students are no longer needing those coats. But big update is that they're physically there. And then for upcoming things, in the new year, we'll be doing a student services or a food support services rebrand. So we've received feedback from students that the name FSS is sometimes confusing, especially for first-time users. So we'll be rebranding to the USC Student Food Bank for that physical location there in the basement, just to help with clarity for new users, to be more descriptive about what that purpose is, and just hopefully lower that barrier to entry for people who are in need of support. Next, as well, is concrete beach beautification. That's something, again, Jen and I have been working on together. It's kind of ugly there, and it can be nicer. So we're working on making it nicer and hopefully getting some student artwork put up, which will be exciting. But not very amenable to this weather we're having now. So definitely something that'll be done later on. And then as well as second semester Clubs Week, so that's a bit self-explanatory. It's another Clubs Week in January. Clubs Week is consistently the most broadly attended event at Western in terms of the portion of the student body who comes. So why not have it again for second semester, which is some feedback we've received from clubs in past years. So it'll be from the 20th to the 23rd of January, so that Tuesday to the Friday of the third week back. And we've already had over 100 clubs sign up to be present, so very exciting. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions?
Oh, sorry, that's your line. Awesome.
Thank you, Vice President Massey. I invite Vice President Ahmed to the podium to present his executive report.
Firstly, because Armand does this for all of us, it's his birthday on December 10th, so let's give him a round of applause as well, guys. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we get a shout out for the big dog at the front of the room. Ask me about why it sucks to be a tripod fish. All of my TikToks are about the tripod fish right now. I don't know why, and they live really sad lives, and I'd love to talk about it with any of you, so please reach out to me so we can talk about it. Top 3 highlights. At the time of making this, the Montreal Canadiens were 10-6-3. Now they're 13-9-3, and they look really bad. So I'm no longer considering this a highlight. This is now a low light. They're playing in 10 minutes. I'm not excited. I went to Del Dungue KBBQ. For the first time. It was really, really good. I had good steak. I spent $40. I heard someone say it's halal. It's not halal. That was really unfortunate to find out after the fact, but we did eat it. And then I was a guest assassin in LST Assassins, which was really fun. Me and Reagan got invited by the residence lead softs to be guest assassins. She killed nobody. I killed like 4 people, so I'm really happy with my performance. Never sit in the spoke if you're in Assassins because I will find you. Updates. So, done a lot of new videos. Finished the grocery video, that's up now. Holiday menu video, that's up on the Wave Instagram now. I hope you've all been enjoying the lovely content. We filmed an LTC video, which is going to go up soon when we start talking more about the LTC stuff. And speaking of, I'm working on an LTC campaign with Omar, just looking at the student feedback we've collected and seeing how we can approach that feedback and make use of it. The USC Now app, we're also looking at more right now. I think we've done a lot of work with the bounce survey. We got a lot of feedback from the bounce survey. I know in my upcoming it says get 1,000 responses, but actually we've been boothing really heavily since I made this presentation. I think we've hit 1,000 now, so hopefully have a lot of feedback to start actually working on getting something up and like figuring out what we can do for students. We finished our second library card drive at some point last month, and it went just as well as the first one. So London Public Library is happy, I'm happy, and really me being happy is all that matters, so that's great. We did a president roundtable. Shout out presidents. We had a great time, didn't we? We were there for like an hour and a half an hour overtime because I was there, obviously, but learned a lot about student donation funds, and hopefully we can start pushing more on making a centralized page for student donation funds so students know how that works. But we collected so much information, it took me forever to compile that into one document. But thank you so much to all the presidents so far who have helped me with that. So as I mentioned, we're still doing feedback campaigns for the app, although I think we're kind of done with the app side now. As Reagan mentioned, working with her to get some more feedback on what events we should be doing next semester from students. LTC, we've been promoting their survey as well as our own survey. And then downtown London, we're starting to work on an engagement strategy around that and a campaign around that to see why students don't really go to downtown London, what things would drive them to go there, what things they need to go there, pretty much just a bunch of questions to collect some data about that so we can work with the city and the university to help get more students out and about in London, because it's our city too. And then last but not least, as always, clubs and faculty council visits. I am almost done all the faculty councils. I know I still have a couple more to go. Hopefully be done by the end of January is my goal. Yes, Rashika, I see you looking at me. It's okay. It's okay. I do got a sign still. I hope it'll all be done by the end of January. There's a lot more visits than I thought there would be in one go. So it's been fun though. I love hearing about everything you all are up to. I think the last one I went to was social science. They were very great and very welcoming, so thank you. Upcoming, actually we finished a Kellogg's Lane vlog last weekend, so that's done now, but just coming up with more vlog ideas for next semester now. We've gotten 1,000 responses around for now the app service. I'm happy with that. And I'm supporting with elections night next semester. Guys, it's coming up so soon. Around end of January, start of February to help support with what the programming will look like and how we can make it as engaging for students to come as possible. But it's also plenty of other stuff I'm working on, so if you have any more questions, you can either ask now or after.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Vice President Ahmed. The next item of business is the November Feedback and Advocacy Update presentation, which the agenda designates for an in-camera session. We will now move into an in-camera session. I invite anyone who is not an ordinary member of council to exit the room. This means all non-council members and USC staff. We resume the open session. I'm motioning for a 5-minute recess. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Abedi. Are there any objections? We will return at 9:15 p.m. Counselors, please head back to your seats.
They did them 2 years ago, and they usually how do you go?
The time is now 9:19 p.m. I call this meeting back to order. Counselors, please make sure you're still logged into Echo 360 as we're now in our 4-action portion of the meeting. First off, we have motion number 4, the motion to approve executive reports. The motion reads, be it resolved that Council accept the executive reports for November 2025. President Henriquez is the mover. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Bogatti.
Point of information.
Councillor Bose first. Yes, Councillor. The session ID is 089478.
Point of information.
Councillor Wasti.
That it's not working. We tried logging in and it's not active right now.
Thank you, Councillor Wasti. I am motioning for a 2-minute recess. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Chow, are there any objections? We will return at 9:23 p.m. The time is now 9:23 p.m. I call this meeting back to order. Counselors, we have a new Echo 360 code. It is 692794. 692794. Dane is posting it in Slack, and it's also on the agenda. Counselors, please raise your hands if you still cannot log into Echo 360. Council, please raise your hand if you're still having trouble with Echo 360. We will resume with motion number 4. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Again, for everyone who hasn't gotten the code yet, the code is 692794. If you're having any trouble logging in, please raise your hand. We will now resume with motion number 4. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Are there any amendments or points of debate? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to cast your vote. Point of order, Council. I know it's late and I know we don't want to be here, but please ensure that we're keeping quiet while voting on motions. The motion passes. Moving on to the second readings. A reminder that we already concluded our question periods for these motions. You will have the opportunity to amend, debate, object, and vote. For our second reading, from the Governance and Finance Standing Committee, motion number 5, the motion to approve amendments to the council composition procedure. The motion reads, whereas the council composition procedure is subject to annual administrative updates in addition to a substantive review every 3 years. Whereas this year's scheduled substantive review identified only minor administrative changes required for clarity and consistency. Be it resolved that council approve the amended council composition procedure as presented. Be it further resolved that the USC shall receive the updated enrollment figures effective January 2026 and submit them to council for information. President Henriquez is the mover. Councillor Whiteside is the seconder. Are there any questions regarding this motion? Discard that. There should not be any questions for this motion. Are there any amendments or points of debate to be made? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to cast your vote. We're still waiting on some responses. If you're having any trouble with Echo 360, please raise your hand. The motion passes. Moving on to motion 6 from the Governance and Finance Standing Committee, the motion to approve amendments to the External Relationships Policy. The motion reads, whereas the USC reviews its policies regularly to maintain accuracy and alignment, whereas the External Strategy and Relationships Policy contained outdated references, be it resolved that Council approve the amended External Strategy and Relationships Policy as presented. President Henriquez is the mover, Councillor Turk is the seconder. Are there any amendments or points of debate to be made? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to cast your vote. The motion passes. Moving on to motion number 7 from the Governance and Finance Standing Committee, the motion to approve amendments to the Conference and Retreat Policy. The motion reads, whereas the USC conducts regular policy reviews to maintain clarity and consistency, whereas the Conference and Retreat Policy required minor administrative updates, be it resolved that Council approve the administrative amendments to the Conference and Retreat Policy as presented. President Henriquez is the mover, Councillor Lovey is the seconder. Are there any amendments or points of debate to be made? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to cast your vote. Councilors, if you're having trouble with your Echo 360, please raise your hand. The motion passes. We have no for information or for discussion items for this meeting. Moving on to questions and comments from the Western community. If anyone from the Western community has any questions or comments, please raise your hand. Moving on to new business. Do we have any new business items to be raised at this meeting? And before I terminate, Isabel and I are hard at work planning for counselor training, the counselor training retreat. Look out for a form from me so we can figure out how much food to cater. And you'll also get an email soon on the date and time, but we're looking at January 7th or 8th. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me and Isabel a message on Slack or email. I motion to terminate this meeting. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Kattenbotter. Are there any objections to this termination? The time is now 9:34 p.m. This meeting is terminated.